Is bait dying? Find out more about why or why not in today's episode. Hey guys, this is Ray here, and today I'm going to be exploring whether or not the log bait deck is dying. Bait has been an archetype consistently in the meta for well over a year. As you know, these decks come in many forms, may that be just log bait decks, poison and fireball bait decks, or whatever else you can come up with. But today, we're going to be mainly focusing on log bait. For many players, bait has basically become a part of the game, and as we know, that's just not normal for deck archetypes, which usually phase in and out of popularity. However, with the past few balances, log bait cards have been constantly nerfed and splash cards have been constantly buffed. We're going to be looking on both sides of the argument as well as some in-game stats, so without further ado, let's get right into it. So firstly, I think it's pretty obvious that the Clash Royale dev team has taken steps to nerf log bait. Those come in the forms of rascal nerfs, minion nerfs, as well as buffs to splashers such as Wizard, Witch, and Valkyrie. Clearly, bait is now so much harder to use as splashed cards are so much more popular than ever before. In addition to that, the meta has also evolved to decks that are built to counter bait decks, specifically putting 3 or even 4 spells in a deck to ensure that you always have answers to your opponent. So clearly, bait should be less popular, but is it? Let's go ahead and take a look at the in-game stats. Firstly, check out the most popular cards. As you can see, with splash cards such as Poison, Fireball, Valkyrie, Royal Ghost, and Bowler becoming more and more popular, bait cards have also taken a fall in usage. In addition, bait, which has pretty much always taken the top spot in Grand Challenge decks, has now been bumped down to number 22. What decks have they been replaced with? Decks with so much gosh dang splash, or that have such a fast cycle that bait pretty much becomes an easy matchup. So clearly, both in theory and in game, bait is seeing drops in usage and popularity with more splash heavy decks coming into their place. So clearly it seems that bait's just on its way out. Just let the numbers talk. But let's take a look on the flip side and go over a few reasons why I don't think bait will be leaving us anytime soon. Number 1, fast cycle. It's often not just the bait element that makes bait decks so good. Bait decks also have faster cycles than most other decks, and that's just a fact, with cheaper cards mostly 3 elixir or less. This makes it really easy for bait players to constantly outcycle their opponent's counters. This mechanic of outcycling is just a basic fundamental of the game. A cheaper deck will cycle faster. This means that classic bait sort of fits into the cycle category, and as you know, cycle decks generally never die. To give examples, 2.6 has been super popular for a long time, as well as the recent Royal Hog cycle decks popping up in the meta. So while the deck's bait element might not be as strong, its cycle element will definitely keep it going. Number 2, easy matchups. Despite there being a lot more hard counters to bait, there are still quite a few decks that bait does well against in the meta, and that's just a fact. As long as these kinds of decks are running around, bait will of course still be there. In addition, it's super easy to overcome hard matchups with bait, especially since all it takes is one mistake from your opponent to win you the game. It has really effective ways of applying quick pressure, which excels against matchups such as beatdown and decks without log. So, let's come to a conclusion. Yes, bait has decreased in popularity, and yes, bait counter decks are much more popular than ever before. However, due to other factors in the deck, as well as the fact that people have learned bait so exceptionally well, bait is, for better or worse, not dead. I believe what has happened is that the skill cap for bait has become much higher, and now that the balance changes have finally settled in, bait is seeing a pretty healthy and constant win and use rate. I believe that Supercell has finally pretty much completely balanced log bait. It's in a pretty good spot at the moment without being too popular, and definitely having a high skill cap to justify the lower usage rates. But unfortunately guys, that is all I've got time for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below as well as a subscription to my channel. And as always, this is Legendaray, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.